Director Clement Manyatela, Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, Mr. Dean McPherson, Deputy Minister Sihle Zigalala of Public Works and Infrastructure, and ministers from our own government here and deputy ministers, premiers and MECs from our various provinces, and ministers and officials and deputy ministers from various countries across the continent. We're rather pleased to see a galaxy of ministers from right across not only our sub-region, but also ministers from other African sister countries across our continent. Distinguished guests and officials, and of course I shouldn't forget Ms. Mamesi Masemola, who is the real engine of Infrastructure South Africa. And she was telling me that she does all the work, the minister and deputy minister take the glory. Let me also extend my greetings to representatives of business and labor who are here. I'm told that today we have, or this year rather, we have been a greater number of people who have come. And as I look across, I just see a clear representation of money, that people with money are here. So I'm going to speak proper English. So when I came in, I saw the room going a bit dark. They darkened the room. And for a moment, I wondered, what is this? It's happening to me again. Because at that moment, we were seated very nicely, and I was beginning to get into a groove of, interacting with this man, and I suddenly hear him say, no, dim the lights, dim. And I must say, a number of people have said, this was an ambush, this was an ambush. And I was bemused. I was saying, what's happening? So when I saw Clement, I said, this guy could have a role in all this. He's repeating what he experienced. But ladies and gentlemen, it is a real pleasure to be here again at this very important Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposium. We started this some years ago when Minister Ramaphosa was still working in the presidency, and we conceptualized Infrastructure South Africa. And today he's a big noise, he's a big minister, but he has left his footprint. And I'm rather glad that it has really mutated and fallen into really good hands. In many ways, this is a moment that I believe is filled with great promise and endless opportunities for infrastructure development in our country. And this I say advisedly as I look at the number of people who have come through, much more than what we have had in the past. And earlier this year, one industry publication said the country is ready to unleash an infrastructure boom. And that, in my view, was quite telling. As we gather at this symposium this year, after last year, it is important for us to fully understand the important role that is played by infrastructure in the life of a nation. particularly our South African nation. This is so because infrastructure is, in the end, fundamental to the development of our country. It serves as the backbone of economic growth and social progress, and also contributes to the improvement of the life of our ordinary people. I have often said that infrastructure is the flywheel that our economy needs to boost growth and to create jobs. A flywheel is that important part of the engine that really gets the engine to propel and to move. It also cools the engine, but at the same time adds a great deal of momentum. That is what infrastructure does. Through public infrastructure, we are able to build roads, railways, ports, airports, to enable what we produce as a nation to move efficiently to the destinations that it should move to. And infrastructure development demonstrates stability and great potential to investors. When they look, or when you look at infrastructure build, you are infused with a great deal of confidence, and you can see that there's stability in this country, and therefore you can invest. Infrastructure that is well constructed, and underline well constructed, and infrastructure that is also well maintained, encourages investors to see a country, our country in this case, and many other African countries seated here, as great investment destinations, because those projects that we embark on create jobs not only in construction and maintenance, but also in related industries. For manufacturing really prospers when infrastructure construction happens, because a whole range of the input products that make up the building of a facility, a building, are manufactured, and it then fuels the great manufacturing growth and the industrialization process. So public infrastructure in things like water, electricity, schools, and health clinics improves living standards and provides dignity to our people and fosters national unity. In case you think I'm talking more and more about social infrastructure, quite a bit of it is investment infrastructure, and a combination of social infrastructure and investment infrastructure makes up a really potent and powerful opportunity for us to latch onto, utilizing various methods and innovative methods of financing. When we have good infrastructure, we are a nation that is connected by rail, by road, by telecommunications, by electricity, education facilities, good health centers, and outstanding entertainment facilities like stadiums where we can go and watch Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates shooting out and one of them winning. And I'm not going to say which one winning. So good infrastructure will boost trade as well and will reduce the cost of doing business. This is essential as we open up to the advent of the African Continental Free Trade Area, as this will enable us to trade with ease with our sister countries on the continent, representing a market of 1.3 trillion rand. Through such economic activity, we will be able to reduce inequality and enable rural as well as marginalized urban areas to benefit. Now, to demonstrate our clear intent, and our intent has grown by leaps and bounds, on having a better focus on infrastructure build. Last month, Infrastructure South Africa released the second edition of the construction book, as we heard from Minister McPherson, which lists around 250 construction projects with an estimated value of more than 238 billion rand. Now, this is a new record for public investment in roads, in energy, in water, logistics, and other infrastructure. It follows a period of prolonged decline in infrastructure spending that was exacerbated by COVID, but that had long started way before COVID. Now, the construction book itself is, in the end, a very credible and detailed list of fully funded infrastructure projects. Now, this year it includes social infrastructure projects that are overseen by National Treasury. National Treasury has clearly and definitively taken a huge bet on funding social infrastructure. And the good thing is we've come up with a number of innovative ways of funding infrastructure. Even if we don't have the money now, we do a number of infrastructure innovative methods of front-loading, build, operate, and transfer, and enable the private sector to play a key role. By showcasing the types of infrastructure projects that are being developed, the construction book helps the construction sector, and some of you are from the construction sector, and some of you are from the supplier sector or industries. This helps you to anticipate demand for local materials, for components, and for the services. And the minister was whispering to me that this year we've got so many of you. And he said, I think, President, it has to do with this 1 trillion rand commitment. They can smell money. And I'm glad you can smell money, because I can also smell money. That's why you are also here. So by focusing on projects that are procurement ready, as well as financially secured, it also reduces uncertainty for contractors, for consultants and manufacturers and material suppliers. And indeed, we did go through a period when some of you who were in the construction industry were getting your equipment to life follow, where you had to retrench your workers, and you kept saying to us, we don't see any projects being put through the government process. And indeed, the government has to play a key role, because it is the real engineer or instigator of infrastructure projects. We are showing that we have moved from great ideas on paper to executable plans to implementation. As the Minister of Finance indicated in the budget speech, infrastructure spending will become the fastest growing line item in our budget. Public infrastructure spending over the next 3 years, as the Minister announced and as Minister McPherson also confirmed, will exceed the 1 trillion mark. This is the first time that South Africa has taken a real bet of a 1 trillion rand amount on infrastructure, and this is to be applauded. Now, I often say that we're showing that we're not playing marbles. You know, as we grew up, we used to play with those glass little balls. Those are marbles. We are now in the real business. Now, as the state substantially increases its capital investment, we recognize that government, in the end, does not have the financial resources to undertake this work alone. And that is why you are here. And that is why we want to mobilize all available capital, both domestic and international, towards this incredible infrastructure boom that is beckoning, that is calling us to come towards it. Because you often travel around the world and we see in a number of countries how infrastructure is changing the landscape, the look and the feel and the attraction of various countries in the world. And we've often said, why is it not happening to us? This is the time when it will now happen to us, because we've come up with much clearer, forward-looking funding methods. Because this requires that our projects have the credibility that is necessary for stakeholders to invest in our projects, yourselves, and so that we can mobilize the trillions of rands in long-term savings managed by domestic financial institutions and offshore institutions. So with the 1 trillion rand that the minister has announced, I want us to quadruple it. I want 4 trillion rand. And the other 3 trillion rand must come from you as the private sector. That is where the money should come from. Armed with that, we then become a locomotive, unstoppable, because out of that 3 trillion rand that you will invest, you will get a good return. You will make money, and we will turn South Africa around and make it, yes, a true construction site, but a beautiful site for all to behold. To enhance greater focus on infrastructure, we are implementing reforms ourselves to make private-public partnerships easier and to make them faster and more predictable. And in the past, it used to take forever for public-private partnerships to move to the next line. It would take you 6 months, a year. We are hastening that process. And some of the reforms we have embarked upon are focusing on making it easier for PPPs under the value of 2 billion rand to gain approval much quicker. And this will significantly reduce the procedural complexity of implementing PPPs. And I know that many of you used to pull out your hair because we were taking far too long. Now, those days are gone. We want to move fast. We're implementing the reforms that are necessary to make it easier for more construction by reducing regulatory duplication and providing investors with long-term certainty. And let me say, where you find that we have too much regulation and where regulation is duplicated, please come forward and point this to us. Because as they say, the stone in the shoe is felt by the one who is wearing it. So you come forward and say, this ain't working, rather than go and form complaint groups and trade unions where you go and toi because some regulation is not working. Please don't do that. Come forward, talk to Infrastructure SA so that we are able to solve those problems. For many years, major projects were announced without technical readiness, without cost realism or stakeholder alignment. And some of us in government will own up to that because we had in the past not matched ambition, great ambition that we had, with the reality of technical skills that can make the projects bankable. And beyond that, where we were not matching the availability of the finance that should fund those projects. So all these were completely disconnected. So as politicians, we would stand up and say, we are going to build this and that, and everybody would clap hands. But many years later, you find that not much has happened because we were not connecting the dots properly. We had made sword-turning ceremonies at the starts of projects where a president or a minister goes out, Clement, to go and turn the sword, and everybody, and we spend a lot of money just doing that. A lot of money just going to dig a hole. And thereafter, it takes many years for us to come back to cut the ribbon when the project has been completed. I forever remember, and I want to cite Premier Mabuyane here, Oscar Mabuyane, who forever continued to raise the issue of Umzimvubu Dam. And he continues to bemoan the fact that it was raised in the 60s, that we are going to build a dam, and that was under another regime in the way past. And we continued to talk about it, and yours truly also continued to talk about it at every state of the nation. But at the same time, at the bottom, very little was happening. The planning was, as Madiba would say, it was in tatters, and nothing of real impact was continuing to happen. And it finally really started getting off the ground when we addressed the issue of funding. How are we going to fund this major project? That is when we started to unlock. So Infrastructure South Africa was established to break this pattern, this horrible pattern of the past, where we raise our people's hopes and Oscar Mabuyane's hopes every year and dash it towards the end of the year. So Infrastructure South Africa helps to expedite project approvals and plays a key role in project preparation and mobilizing finance. So if you are sitting here and you are a financier, if you are sitting here and you are a material supplier, you can now gain more hope and trust in the structures that we have set up. And that is why initially Infrastructure SA was established in the presidency, so that we can have line of sight of precisely what we should be doing. It has now been moved into infrastructure and public works, and it is being well managed as an entity on its own with absolutely outstanding officials who know their craft, who know what they are doing. Now the entity has become a center of excellence within government, showing what is possible when the brightest minds apply themselves to some of our most complex challenges. I want to repeat, we're now moving more and more in government to finding and identifying the brightest minds. Of course, not all of us can be as bright as whatever, but we are now finding the brightest minds, and we've got them in Infrastructure SA. You just need to sit down with some of those people, women and men, young, middle-aged, not too old like me, but as you sit down with them, you have a sense that we are now going to be able to drive infrastructure. Over the last 5 years, more than 3/4 of all requests to Infrastructure South Africa to unlock permits, authorizations, and licenses were successfully resolved, because it serves as a hub to enable things to happen. When Infrastructure SA is involved, it takes just about 85 days, I'm told, on average, for permits, licenses, approvals to be issued by the regulatory entities. So it is a hub, and it is an enabler that unlocks a whole number of things. When that fails, it goes to the minister. When that fails, it comes to the president. Under the Infrastructure Development Act, Cabinet is empowered to establish strategic infrastructure projects, what we call SIPs, that Infrastructure SA can fast track through regulatory and approval processes. So we also bring Cabinet to bear in this very important work that needs to be done. And the capital value of our SIPs has grown from an initial 350 billion rand in 2020 to over 1.3 billion rand in 2025. I tell you, that is not Mickey Mouse. This is real, and it is happening here in our country. And for that, you must give some round of applause. Now, this value is bolstered by the huge demand for privately funded projects that only require expedited regulatory approvals to reach financial close. Now, we are finding that many in the private sector are impatient, are eager, are willing, are expecting, and are determined to come through and fund infrastructure projects. And these projects span energy, water, sanitation, transport, logistics, digital infrastructure, and human settlements. Now, the projects are making a difference in people's lives. One of the completed projects, for example, is the Hazelmere Dam wall raising project in KwaZulu-Natal. For the longest time, we kept on talking about Hazelmere Dam and raising just the wall. That's been done. The project has increased the dam's yield, providing a reliable source of water to meet the growing demand from urban and industrial users. Another milestone is the completion of the 100 megawatts Redstone concentrated solar power plant near Postmansberg in the Northern Cape. A fantastic project which I visited. And once having visited, I came back and started telling my children about my engineering prowess and told them how this energy is generated through mirrors. And my kids looked at me with great attention for the first time. They never pay me attention. And they thought that our father is so brilliant. So, because I took time to go and understand how the Redstone project generates electricity by utilizing mirrors and getting the mirrors to move around with the sun and heat the sodium at the center, and therefore have 85% energy availability. Now, this facility now supplies clean energy to more than 400,000 people a day and over 100,000 households each year. In the past financial year, Infrastructure SA's Projects Preparation Fund supported the development of 34 infrastructure projects with an estimated value of 259 billion rand towards bankability and investment. And this has been our major problem in the past, where we conceptualize programs, or projects rather, and we don't have the skills to match or to connect things like bankability and the engineering part and all that. Now, to focus our efforts further, last year we launched the top 12 priority infrastructure projects for project preparation. These include the Namakwa and Nkomazi Special Economic Zones. They include the Amatola Bulk Water Augmentation Project and Phase 2 of the Rooival Wastewater Treatment Works, where I went once, the Eskom Tobatsi Pumped Storage Scheme and Transnet's Port of Ngqura Liquefied Natural Gas projects that are being supported to meet South Africa's energy security needs. We have completed the necessary project preparation on a number of road, hospital, and small harbor development projects. Now, over the past year, more than 600 million rand has been committed just to preparing projects and to getting all those clever engineers to craft the numbers, the accountants, to put the actual numbers in place across municipalities and public entities. And I'm rather pleased to hear the Minister, Mackenzie, talking about us getting municipalities adopted, because it is when we adopt municipalities that we will be able to work with them and hold their hands, because that is where skills are lacking, where we will be able to enhance greater project preparation and execution. It is targeted that large-scale public sector construction projects with the potential to attract investment from alternative sources such as the multilateral development banks and development finance institutions will become a reality. And Infrastructure SA opened the first bid window for project preparation support last year, where government bodies and state-owned enterprises were encouraged to submit proposals for infrastructure projects that were needing preparation support. Now, this is a team of people who are just ready to assist, to ensure that projects are well prepared. Now, the qualifying projects prioritize connectivity, infrastructure, particularly the refurbishment and development of strategic rail networks and ports and water and all that. And we also, you might recall, set up the Infrastructure Fund way back a few years ago. Now, that fund is also making a tangible impact on the landscape. Now, since its inception, the fund has packaged around 26 blended finance projects across several sectors with a capital value of approximately 102 billion rand. Now, through this model, we are doing what we call de-risking projects and unlocking capital from pension funds, commercial banks, and the international financiers. Now, projects being supported include, for instance, here in the Western Cape, the Cape Town Container Terminal, and in KwaZulu-Natal, the eThekwini Non-Revenue Water Program. And last year, through the Infrastructure South Africa, the Leaders Forum meeting was inaugurated as well. And at that forum, which is now a powerful platform for bringing together infrastructure players and experts, we were able to get ministers from the African continent, creating space for strategic dialogue. And that is why I'm so pleased that we've got so many ministers from various countries on our continent and in our region who come together to exchange views on policy so that we have policy alignment as well. Now, this level of collaboration is in the end essential if we are going to overcome shared challenges and realize the full potential of the African Continental Free Trade Area. By bringing together our collective expertise and political will, we strengthen the foundations for inclusive and sustainable growth. One of the things that we put on the table when we were in the United States is the cooperation that we are engendering amongst us as African countries, where, for instance, we look at the development of the Lobito corridor, which is going to link a number of countries, Angola, Zambia, and all that, and where South African institutions are also playing a key role. So we look at that and say, this is also our project, because we are intricately linked with what is happening in our region. Now, coordinating an ambitious infrastructure build program is not only a practical necessity, it is also a transformative opportunity. when we align our efforts amongst ourselves as a country and our sister countries in the region, we unlock economies of scale and attract more investment. We ensure that the development of interconnected and future-ready infrastructure can support trade, mobility, energy security, and digital access. This integrated approach, which does not only look at a particular province, a particular municipality, but which spans the whole country and goes beyond the country, encompasses our region, and indeed our continent, is precisely what we want to see, because that accelerates regional integration and positions our continent, Africa, to compete more effectively in the global economy while ensuring that our own people see tangible improvements in their daily lives. And our people keep on saying, we want to see these projects that you're talking about. And I think we are now primed. We're almost like that aeroplane that's on the tarmac, ready to take off so that our people can see it. So we say thank you to our partners from across the continent for working together with us to drive inclusive and sustainable growth. As we seek to transform our country, but as we also seek to transform our region, SADC, and our continent, and to unlock its full potential, we must place infrastructure at the heart of the development agenda, not only as a tool for economic growth and social development, but as a symbol of our great ambition and our hope for a better future. And this is what our people want to see. So I wish this symposium of this year the very best, and look forward to another year of productive outcomes. I do believe that we are now well primed, well ready for the great potential that we've been talking about. And if there ever was a time for us to surge ahead with infrastructure, this is the time. I say this because you are here with money, with opportunities, and as I smell this money, I know that it is going to happen. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask you to stay behind. We're going to do a handover of the book. Oh,